Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, Everything Product. We talk about various insights on the latest technologies with a product mindset. This is Phani. I'm a product manager at Intuit.
Hello, everybody. This is Sid Saladi. I'm a product manager at Best Buy.
Awesome. For the first time, we both are planning to talk about all the different things that are happening in the world. There are different news that came up in the last week or two. We are planning to pick few of those and then talk about them. The first one that we want to talk about is the latest Apple launches. And in this, let's talk about the Apple Watch. Okay. Sidhu, currently, right, Apple launched their latest Apple Watch 8 series, and they also launched the Apple Watch Ultra. So, what are your thoughts about the latest products, and how do you plan to use it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to buy it or not because all of Apple watches have had upgrades, but not so significant to entice me to buy a new one. But the Apple Watch Ultra is an interesting extension to their product line, right? So I think they have brought in a ruggedized version of the Apple Watch with more battery life, satellite connectivity, and also I think it's easy to use, I guess, with gloves and different things you wear. So yeah, it's an interesting product, right? So they are catering to a specific segment, so I would want to see how people respond to that, right? So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I was recently watching a video from MKBHD. I was seeing his review of the Apple Watch and everything. So there is one principle he talks about, right? If it is working, don't change it. And Apple follows that principle a lot. I think I have Watch 7, I think 7 or 6. I don't remember exactly. But it's a good product. It's an excellent product. One of the best features that I love is I don't even have to enter my credentials with my MacBook. My MacBook can open with my Apple Watch. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. So that connectivity or that ecosystem, right, is excellent. And they have all the required apps, everything that's there in my phone comes here, all the calls. I also use it for like Audible when I'm going for a walk or something like that. That's awesome. So they didn't change anything of it. They didn't improve also anything out of it. There are some minor changes, and the naked eye might not even see those. Like there are better pixels, or I think they added like additional microphones or speakers, etc. For a naked eye, it might not be a big difference at all. But like you mentioned, the core focus that they're talking about is the athletes or uh, or pro sportsmen. So like who are doing like different kinds of activities and they need a watch that can like calculate all of that automatically and then make sure it's there throughout the time.
Yeah, that's right. So I also had an experience, right, when I was doing my marathon. I think it was at the end of it was in my mind that will my watch die out, right? So because I was doing uh, this was a much virtual marathon. It wasn't basically, I was not able to track anything. Normal marathons, if it's an in-person marathon, you get to know what the mile marks are and all of that stuff. But this was a virtual one where I have to calculate that just through my watch. And I was afraid that if I my watch dies, right, will I be able to complete my marathon or not? So I think that's a very specific use case which a lot of people would want to buy, right? People who are doing hikes, people who are doing maybe water sports, people who are doing marathons and all of that, and maybe people who are doing hikes in a very remote location, right? So this has satellite connectivity. So what if I'm lost somewhere and I'm have to contact someone, there's no signal and all of that. So I think this serves a particular segment. And yeah, it would be interesting to see how people respond to it. And it's also pricey, right? It's close to 799 or something. It's close to, it costs as much as your iPhone.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. Let me ask you another question, right? All I've seen in like the entire Apple announcements or their ads and everything is they're primarily focused on health, and they're also primarily focused on fitness. Okay. Who do you think is the primary customer? Do you think they're targeting those specific customers? Who do you think is the primary customer for this product?
Yeah, I feel that even people who are active, I think let's try to segment the people, right? Like people who are active, people who are trying to active, right? So the original Apple Watch tries to cater to these two kinds of people, right? People who are trying to be active. So this can be a motivation for them to actually start being active, right? Track things, have a competition with friends, right? You have a way where you can, challenge a friend and you compete the whole week and you get an award, all of that stuff, right? It's getting that social piece into it, making you competitive and all that. So that's one persona. The second persona is people who are already active. I think the use case for them is people, if I'm active, I want to improve, right? So people who are already active could basically get a lot of data points using Apple Watch, where they can optimize their training towards and losing weight or building up, bulking up, and all of that.
Okay. And I think I lost you a little bit in between. You want to tell
Okay,
that the
I
point again?
Okay, yeah, sure, I can start. So, first we were talking about one segment who are trying to be active. The second segment is who are active, right? So, imagine a person who's active would basically want to improve his performance, right? As is going through. So, Apple Watch kill basically is giving him data points on how he could do that, right? So basically all the metrics which he wants to monitor and how he can improve. And also I'm assuming all of these people who are active are working towards a goal, getting more active, getting lean, or building muscle and all of that stuff. And I guess these metrics would help them further their goal and all of that stuff. So these two are the
Yep.
personas. So what is your take? But I would say that when we look at the ultra, there are also other personas which we can further segment into. But first, I want to listen your take.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also on the same page. The only additional thing that I would add here is Apple customers. So Apple has that cult fan base, right? Or Apple has that fan base. They might not leave the ecosystem at all. So this product is specifically catered to those customers. And within that segment, they're also focusing a lot on the health and the fitness aspect. But what I'm trying to see is how can Apple get additional revenue for the same customers? And for that, Apple Watch and the AirPods Pro are the primary products that they're targeting towards
Yeah,
for
I
that
mean,
cult fan base. Yeah.
I was reading somewhere like AirPods. I think it has massive revenue generation at this point. Like I think one in every three have an AirPod or something in the US. So yeah. So maybe let's look at the ultra, like what segmentation is Apple trying to do there, right? On the ultra side, maybe let's try to see the normal. So there are active people.
Actually, Sidhu, before you go to Ultra, right? Tell me the difference between the Apple latest watch and the Ultra so that we'll know, like, our listeners will know, like, what we're talking about.
Sure. Yeah. So I think the key differences are it's more rugged. It has a better battery life, and I think the parts are bigger, so its usability is better. With when you wear gloves and all of that stuff, and it has satellite connectivity. So I think Apple is trying to further segment their personas into two different. Like when you look at the active people, there could be active people who are mostly working out at homes and in the gyms and all of that stuff, and there could be more other segment who are just doing outdoor activities, right? They could be doing hiking, there could be doing swimming, there could be mountaineering and all of rock climbing and all of that stuff, right? So I think that's a segment which Apple is trying to tackle here, where they're saying, okay, you don't run out of the battery, uh, you have a better build so that you can use it through gloves, right, while rock climbing, or while doing it in snow and all of that stuff. And also if you're lost, you actually have satellite connectivity. So I think that's a pretty solid use case. If I were doing some of that stuff, I've definitely buy Apple Watch. So one other interesting piece, Funny, as you said, right? Apple has a very loyal customer base. So I feel that even normal people, normal personas we talked about, would buy this just for the fact that this has better features.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, once you come into that Apple ecosystem, right, it's tough to like get out. And they make it like extremely useful and easy for you that you can get out. So imagine this, right? The other example that I was telling, I never have to like enter credentials into my MacBook if I'm wearing my watch. That's like, dude, awesome. The same way I don't have to like unlock my phone. So all of these things, they make it much more simpler for you, so you can ease into it. So when you start looking into that, right, then also watch being something that you can keep for like longer period of time. Phones might go out it in like 2 years, but watch you can still continue to use like beyond that. So with those use cases, I think the watch is like extremely useful even for like regular customers.
Yeah. And so also look at this, right? Initially, iPhone was part of your, like, it's an natural extension to your body. Now, uh, watch has become a natural extension. AirPods have become a natural extension. Imagine you carrying so many devices now and you're logged into the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, within my household itself, right, just two of us, we have what, 8 or 9 different Apple products, or maybe more. Like both of us have MacBooks, both phones, 2 different AirPods, 2 watches. Yeah, definitely logged into like everything that they give.
See, and you know, I'll share a story with you. Like, 2 months back, we went to hiking in Zion National Park, and one of my friends actually forgot his watch. It was not an Apple Watch, Android watch, whatever it is. Forgot his watch, but just for that hike, he went to Best Buy to buy a new watch. So imagine the mindset of people, right? Like, people, even I maybe I would have done that, right? Because I also make sure I complete all my rings every day, and I'm basically into that gamification. That's actually helping me stay fit, but sometimes I overdo it. I feel where I try to walk when it's 11:30 to just make sure I complete that rings, right? So, but all said and done, it's also, there are positive sides to it and negative sides to it, right? Yeah.
It's true. We both should join the challenge. I'm usually not very into the rings. The funny part was like when I work out, I remove my Apple Watch and then work out.
Oh, really? Man,
I
cannot.
do that because when I wear my gloves, right, it's not very comfortable. But
Comfortable.
maybe we both will get into one of the challenges that'll make me use the Apple Watch a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So let's move on to another topic, man. This is a really hot topic. So, last week Adobe has announced that it's going to acquire Figma. So that's an interesting piece of news for me, because I've been using Figma a lot. While collaborating with different designers, building products and all of
You
that
you
stuff.
didn't tell the number, said $20 billion.
$20 billion, right? So yeah, and that's a very interesting story there. So looks like the founder has started somewhere in 2012, uh, and there was a lot of years of research that went into it. Looks like in 2012 to 2014 it was more of R&D. 2015, 2016, 2015 was a private beta launch, but zero revenue. 2016 was a public launch, but zero revenue. All of that years, basically looks like the founder was sitting with customers, trying to understand how they use the product, and add more value and do it in an iterative approach. And I think 2017 where the magic happens, right? uh, they have a annual recurring revenue of 700K. 2018, 4 million. It's almost 5x. That's crazy for any SaaS company. 2019, 23 million. So that's again 5x. 2020, 77 million. 2021, 210 million. 2020, they're planning somewhere around 450, and 2023, 800 million. Even though it has exponential growth, I would say 20 billion is a big acquisition cost for Adobe. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. I'm also a big proponent of Figma, right? So before we go into that, let me explain what Figma is, just for everyone who doesn't know.
Yeah.
Figma is one of the visual collaboration tools, especially focused on designers. So, for example, right, let's say Best Buy is trying to create a new product, and the experienced designers or the front end designers can use Figma to create all of those prototypes and share it with, let's say, their entire team, like product managers, engineers, etc. They can also use Figma to take it to external customers to do tests very easily. They can show the prototypes and ask like how it is working out, what they like, what they don't like, and at a real time they'll be able to update all of those visuals however they like. And same, like you said even within our team, right? We use Figma a lot in order for us to create the designs, iterate on it, comment on it, like change it. It was excellent, especially during the pandemic, right, where we couldn't meet. It was awesome. It was like I can literally have 10 people in the meeting and continue to collaborate on that much faster. And the way they give um, the tools is also amazing, because you can import all of the libraries that you already have. You can actually take from your current websites and make it exceptionally easy for anyone to collaborate.
Yeah.
Coming to the $20 billion acquisition, right? If you think of the potential, the like you're telling, it's growing at 5x, and they are currently still focused on experienced designers. But the way I could visualize it, they can enhance that product fivefold. They can enhance it to like product managers, they can enhance it to like engineers, or they can also extensively enhance it to like other companies. And now acquisition by Adobe, right? That's the interesting point there. Adobe already has multiple products which caters to similar things. Okay. And if Figma grows at the same rate where they're looking at, it would be a big threat to Adobe. And that could be one of the potential reasons of them trying to acquire. Again, it still didn't go through, because since they're both are in the same segment, the government has, or the,
There would be
or what,
antitrust, I guess, right?
yeah, so they can come back
Antitrust
and say,
rules.
no, we don't agree to this acquisition.
Yeah, man. So I think a couple of things I want to add there, right? So yeah, it's been really intuitive to use Figma for me, right? So whenever I go into design thinking sessions, right, where we try to solve a problem, do prototyping, right, it allows me to quickly give comments on designs, right? Till give my point of view, and it helps others to do the same thing. And we actually go into the customers, showing them, that it's actually the same feel of them using the real product, right? And then based on how intuitively the user uses it, we capture comments and improve that, do iteration. So it's basically collaborative first tool which has improved the whole experience. But before it was completely different, where you used to have prototypes, then the designer used to send it to you, you look at it, review it, send it back to them, and it's a long process. Now it's all collaborative and you can do it real time, right? So that's been a real experience for me. But one other interesting piece here is I would want to understand, like, how Adobe would basically take this in, because Figma is more of a freemium model, where I think they have three tiers. The first tier is basically you can have unlimited users, but maybe three, limited to three teams. You can have a version history of 30 days and one project, and basically it's basically a freemium model where people can try it, all the features, everything, and if they really think it's useful, they can expand it to their organization level and all of that stuff. But Adobe comes from a different space, right? They have this Adobe suite of things where you can buy all of these tools for 29.99 or just one tool for $30. But Adobe doesn't have a freemium model, I guess. They have a 1 month trial period. And it's very frustrating for me whenever I open PDF, my PDF, Adobe PDF viewer, it asks me, can I have a account? That's why I use a lot of third party apps to do that. So it'll be interesting to see how Adobe would integrate all of this stuff, the freemium stuff, right? So would they include it in the bundle and take a revenue cut and maybe increase the overall bundle cost later? Or would they keep this as a separate product?
Yeah, I know. What I would anticipate, at least what I read through, is Figma would still continue to be the same. They wouldn't change anything, because that goes back to the business principles, right? If something is working right, don't change that. Probably add more fuel into it, but don't change that. I think that would still continue. On Adobe, right? The way I would see this is more like a retention play. So right now there might be a lot of customers who are using Adobe products, and at least the way I think about Adobe is more catered towards like a B2C customers, not B2B. The only thing that I could think of is probably like PDF. But beyond that, if you think of like Photoshops, or if you think of any of the other products, it's catered towards like B2C. Let's say you are a visual designer, or you are content creator, or you are a photo editor, etc. all individual customers or maybe small businesses. But this brings in a lot of play for them in terms of B2B. Figma is catered primarily towards like businesses, and when it goes to a business, the customer retention would be very high. When a business starts using it, they won't use it for like 1 year. They would probably have like continual years because it's not easy for them to like move to a whole new product. So this I think enhances a lot of the B2B play and an ecosystem play as well. This might keep the business customers within the same ecosystem for visual design.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. Yeah. So P2C, right? Adobe. And also for Adobe, Canva is a very big threat, right? So Canva is actually making it really, really easy for people to use it. So initially, I used to use Adobe Photoshop, or uh, there is another tool for editing vectors and logos. I don't remember that tool, but now Canva makes it so easy, collaborative, and you already have existing designs which you can get inspiration from. So that's also a
Maybe
big
that's
threat.
the next acquisition.
It's I think more than 80 billion or so,
Ooh.
840 or 80 billion. So it's I think even past what Adobe can afford at this point. But yeah, so it's an ongoing threat. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how they would actually roll in all these features and all. So there was so also I was thinking about how Microsoft Teams basically is doing something to Slack, right?
Mhm.
So Microsoft Teams is a scrappy product for sure, right? Compared to Slack. Slack is a really good product than that. But Microsoft gave it for free, and have, basically you're getting something for free, you get users, and then you maybe bump up the overall bundle price, and people anyway buy it because they have dependency of so many apps. So that's essentially killing Slack now.
Yeah, that's true. And again, like Microsoft can continue to add the features what Slack has to keep the customers. I talked to Avan, right, my wife. They use Teams primarily, and they love it. I'm like, why are you not guys not using Slack? They're like, no, Teams is solving for all the required problems for us. So why to move?
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, so looking at this, it would be interesting to see how Adobe prices everything. Would they still keep it as B2C or B2B and separate, and having Figma having a sales team going to organizations to sell it, or would they bundle it with their suite of products, which is more of B2C? So that's an interesting.
And one more last thing that I want to add here, right, is the knowledge that they would get. So Adobe as a company has always been focused on like these big products, like you have to like install it, take licenses, etc. Figma is more collaboration. Go to a portal and then you can continue to use it. All the extensive knowledge and the leaders that they would get from Figma, they could probably utilize that to enhance their current products as well.
That's right. Yeah, that's basically adding this collaborative first approach towards some of the other products,
Yep.
right? So that could help them maybe even compete with Canva. So
True.
because Canva, Figma, all of those are web browser first tools, right? So they optimize for usage in a web browser, but Adobe is mostly, and they optimize the use for an application.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, man, that's an interesting conversation. So let's see how the situation evolves. So also I want to bring up another news, right? So this is little old, but uh, WhatsApp getting into this monetization space where they are basically partnering with Geo. Looks like WhatsApp is partnering with Geo to deliver groceries. So that's the tagline of the news. So what are your first thoughts when you listen to that?
No, that's great. So when I think about WhatsApp, right, at least for the Asian markets, it's one of the prominent apps that everyone uses to like communicate and talk to others. And it has been expanding well. Started with chat, now I can do calls, video calls. They also expanded to desktop recently, where I can install the apps or use in the web browsers, etc. And a natural extension is to do other things in the same app. I think Elon Musk was talking about it recently, where he was saying WeChat is awesome because WeChat will let you do everything within the same app. It is the Twitter, it is the chat, it is the video calls for China. It doesn't have presence beyond China, I think, a lot, but within China, it's awesome. I think WhatsApp is trying to play that role uh, in the other markets where they want to extend it to other customers. So their WhatsApp business helps all the small businesses do all of their transactions within that, to talk to their customers, have the chats, etc. And doing this geo extension is awesome because if I can do all of my groceries within WhatsApp, saves me time and I can have a history of everything within my WhatsApp chats.
Yeah, and also I look at this deal as from a perspective where Meta on WhatsApp basically is in the phase where they have good retention and engagement. Now they want to monetize that. Have they paid 16 billion for WhatsApp and haven't monetized so far, or maybe they're monetizing with the Meta WhatsApp business, but that is, I think, not significant when you look at their overall revenue. And on the Geo side, right, it has a vast footprint, store footprint. It has close to 2,800 stores, so that's basically helping them acquire customers. So WhatsApp is looking at monetization. Geo is more looking at acquiring customers where they can get and drive more traffic towards their stores and get stuff. So that's, I think, a really good partnership which can bring in a lot of revenue for these. And also another piece which I look at is it's also empowering communities to basically, or small stores to sell stuff to multiple people, right? So I think that's also a powerful dialogue there, like where now people were saying Amazon is coming up and killing all the mom and pop stores, but now this platform will actually give mom and pop stores access to all the user base which Amazon has. So that's also an interesting place, right, where they're promoting local stores and empowering individual mom and pop stores.
That's true. Yeah, especially for the Indian market, right? Uh, so helping the small business is good, but again, joining Geo might actually be contradicting that because now Geo is one of the bigger retailers in India. Now, given that they are partnering with WhatsApp, which basically means they have wealth of customer data from WhatsApp. So they might be taking the customers away from these mom and pop shops to their Geo markets.
Yeah, I think they have a strategy there. So they have individual Geo marts which are owned by Geo, and they also have a B2B app, a wholesale app where these mom and pop stores in India, which are called as Kirana stores, can order goods. So basically, they are eliminating a layer of salespeople who will actually go in and sell to these people. So that's basically also eating into jobs, I'd say, right?
Nice. Actually, taking a step back, right? If I think of me as an individual customer, okay, let's say I want to add groceries, okay, or I want to buy groceries. Think of a household, okay. I might have something, my wife wants to buy something, or let's say my parents want to buy something. Everyone, right now, how do we do that? I do a WhatsApp message in that group to say, hey, these are all the things that we need to buy. But so I'm guessing someone would have like done that natural extension to say, okay, if I'm sending the list right there, why don't I do the shopping right there? Like go to WhatsApp and everyone does the shopping and shopping is already done. Now you go to a geo store and pick it up. Or whenever the shopping is already done, someone can get it delivered to your house. That's awesome. Saves a lot of time for the customers.
Yeah. Also, it's interesting to see how this pans out, right? So there are already a lot of grocery delivery players in India, which is, I think, Zomato is one, Swiggy is one. So they do basically groceries, food, and all of that stuff. It's more of Uber Eats and DoorDash combined together. Sorry, what was that grocery delivery in the US? Shipped and maybe Uber Eats combined together. So they already have these apps, but for me it eliminates that step of moving into another app and order stuff, where I could directly order in WhatsApp. But there's also other startup called Zepto. So what they do is their primary differentiator is super fast delivery. So they do all deliveries under 10 minutes. So if I'm looking at convenience and also speed. So what would I opt for? So if
My preference is convenience.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but there could also be use cases where when I went to India, I was basically wanted a Red Bull because I had to stay all night, and I ordered something, and I go to the restroom, come out, and there's a guy outside knocking, saying, "Okay, this is your Red Bull delivered. Just one minute." So that's how fast it is in India. So yeah, I know it's in an interesting space to be in, right? But where delivery services have very laser thin margins. So, and there are also a lot of players differentiating in different ways. So it doesn't mean that Geo having so many customers is a win-win situation, right? Still the service should be good, there should be a lot of reliability and people should trust and order stuff. So it could go either ways, but it's a good strategic start at least.
No, that's it. That's actually a great thing, right? Maybe this started as a play. Maybe they're losing market share because of all of these deliveries, and that could be one of the reasons that they're partnering with WhatsApp. Because now that it's much more easier, maybe customers would adopt to this rather than going to like Zomatos of the world, where it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna order the food rather than like cooking it myself.
Yeah, and also when we look at the the mother app or super apps which are in China, right, where you can order food, book appointments, pay rent, do take loans, whatnot, right? You could do everything. Maybe I'm assuming WhatsApp would evolve into something like that, where it's not just grocery, it's a lot of different things which you do. That's where WhatsApp might win the competition with other people, where people only go to those specific apps for certain things like fast delivery or maybe a certain specific differentiator, but people would mostly do most of their stuff here. So there's also other interesting piece, right? For me, WhatsApp, I like WhatsApp for the ease of use, the design, right? So simple, not complicated. There are a lot of apps out there like Telegram and all of that are so complicated, so functionality wise and all. WhatsApp, even my grandmother can use, right? So it's so simple. So I don't know how the strategy would play out if they want to make this a super app and complicate it with all the different features. So that's also something which I'm looking forward to see how they would make it really really simple so that the users, it's intuitive for the users to use all of these services.
That's true. I mean, that example that I can take is Facebook, right? So Facebook, when it started, it's basically a social networking app where you have a news feed where you go through like different posts and stuff. But now, if you go to Facebook, it has 100 different things, and the customer base has evolved like crazy over a period of time. Maybe Facebook is or Meta is thinking in that principle right now, where customers are used to the product. Now even if we continue to add features, maybe the customers will continue to adapt to it. Or maybe they have two different apps, right? WhatsApp and WhatsApp Business. Maybe the WhatsApp Business would be a cluster of features, and the regular WhatsApp, they might keep it the same.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and also initially Facebook people were using it as social media and all of that. No, I know people who don't do social media at all, but go into Facebook to buy stuff, sell stuff, right? So all of the
Marketplace,
other
yeah,
things. So so this is like an app which is catering to multiple different personas.
that's true. Yeah, it'll be interesting to like see how this will pan out. But I love the strategy, and I would love to see it being expanded in US as well, especially to support like mom and pop shops like you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, man. I think a good conversation, a lot of different topics here. So this is something new which we tried out, but I feel that it's also interesting and it's like thought provoking to us to go through all of these things and think through a product mindset to understand how these things would pan out and what the strategy behind this is and all of that stuff. But yeah,
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sidhu, and thank you everyone who's watching this podcast. We'll be bringing more interesting conversations as well. Looking forward to more conversations in the future. Thank you.